private housing. That is the primary way to live. At least as far as I'm informed. And that is what we're going to talk about today, alongside the ongoing housing crisis, or the coming housing crisis in Denmark. Because do we have a housing crisis in Denmark? We do have some very serious issues regarding housing, some places, and we really don't have them in others, of course. However, the thing is, if you are a normal Danish person with a normal Danish job and a normal Danish income, you can buy a house in almost all parts of Denmark, except for Copenhagen and Aarhus. Copenhagen being the capital and Aarhus the second biggest city. You can, of course, buy houses in some places in Aarhus and in very select few places in Copenhagen, but they will always be extremely expensive. However, you just have to go to Odense before you come to a place where you can actually afford a decent house. And for those of you who are not watching from Denmark, which I doubt anyone is, because no one is going to watch this. Are you serious? There's so many people here. I'm going to be referring to housing prices that I have found in Danish kroner. And Danish kroner is 1 Danish crown. No, 1 euro is 7.45 Danish crowns. To those of you who want to convert, I will not be providing conversions here because I literally can't do that. So what I'm going to do instead is that I will be listing the price that I saw the houses on in English, in kroner. Because if you want to live in Aarhus, in the attractive parts of Aarhus, you maybe pay 7 million Danish kroner for a house that looks like that or something. And if you're in Copenhagen, the very attractive areas are about double that, I would guess. Whereas if you go out to the areas in the Copenhagen Vestegn, also known as Western area, which includes the municipalities of Hvidovre and Brøndby, I'm pretty sure. Look at that house. That is so perfect. I mean, that would go for like 7 million in Aarhus. Like the southern part of Aarhus, even more in the northern. That is so perfect, that house. I actually really like it. However, we're not in neither Copenhagen nor Aarhus. We are in what we would call the affordable part of Denmark. where the average Danish person can afford any house they want. To put it in another way, we are in Esbjerg. And Esbjerg is Denmark's fifth largest city by inhabitants. There is 75,000 inhabitants here, some of whom live on that street, many of whom don't. And as you probably can see here, Esbjerg largely consists of single-family villas, and it's an attractive place for families to live in. That means there's lots of private housing, and there live many people in those houses in general. People here own their homes, they don't rent it. And we will be talking about those people in the entire country today. Because I noticed, I was looking at housing prices in Aarhus, in Odense, and in Esbjerg, and in Copenhagen, which is a very, very small town up in the northern part of the middle part of Jutland, if that makes sense. So, the thing is that here, one of these houses maybe cost 1.5–2 million kroner. In Aarhus, these could easily cost 5 or 6 million, and in Copenhagen they could easily cost 10 or 12 million, given the area. Yes, you can find areas in Copenhagen where you can get houses that look like these for less, maybe 4 or 5 million. But those areas will not be as clean and as quote unquote nice to live in as this. The same goes for ours. In Odense, these houses will cost around 30% more maybe, but they will still be affordable. They will still be very affordable, and we will still be looking at maybe 2.5–3 million. Well, maybe not for that one. However, I think this really goes to show that there is not a country that has a housing crisis. There's cities that have a housing crisis. It's often big cities, it's often expanding cities. Esbjerg isn't expanding, so therefore the houses are fairly cheap. One of the main incentives to move to Esbjerg is because the houses are very cheap. One of the main incentives to move to Copenhagen is not that the houses are very cheap, because they aren't. You can get so much cheaper in any other part of Denmark than in Copenhagen. And I do not understand how people can live there. Like, it doesn't really make sense for me. Like, why would you pay 5 million kroner to live in a house that doesn't really say much, isn't really that attractive, isn't really that beautiful on the outside, is kind of meh. Sometimes even looks awful. While you can literally get your dream house here, or in the East Jutland fjord cities for 2 million, or maybe 2-3 million. It doesn't really make sense at that point. And that's the most important part of this video. If you have to take anything from this video, it's not worth living in Copenhagen. There's so many other places that's much more worth living in Copenhagen. I do not understand why people ever would choose to live there. Don't tell me that road is blind, or, you know, have a dead end, or whatever. I really want to be walking around in these small roads, because, you know, they're nice to walk in. It's maybe not the top area in the world, but it's certainly a very nice place. That's another thing with Esbjerg, actually. It's a very clean city, that both has upsides and downsides. One of the things that I've noticed while living here is that the public places are clean. They're not necessarily used. Oh, that has a dead end too. That's so sad, that. And of course we can't get through there because of the railway. I don't know where we are. We will literally just have to walk along this road, which is absolutely disgusting. At least if it's the road that I think it is. Yeah, it 100% is. Well, nothing can be perfect. That's part of the charm, I guess. And the important thing is that you can afford to live here without having your bank account absolutely ruined. These houses, or, you know, those over there, the high ones, which, by the way, look awful from this angle. It's just me. Like, they're so high. No way we can get through here. Can we get down here? Oh, there's a road. There's a street going across there. Maybe we can take that. That would be so perfect. Well, as I was saying, those houses that you can't see anymore. I checked yesterday, because one of them were for sale, because they are private apartments, or, you know, self-owned apartments. 200,000 kroner. That's like 25,000 pounds, or, you know, 25,000 euros. That's so cheap. And, you know, it was not even small or awful. I mean, if you want to live in the centre of Copenhagen or something, you will pay a leg and an arm for a room. That's the giant meme in Denmark. Copenhagen housing prices, drop it. Even like Zealandic housing prices on the rest of Zealand are absolutely insane, just because it's possible for pendlers to go to Copenhagen every day. It's insane. Even a large part of Fyn has a large proportion of pendlers to Copenhagen. That's a massive part of the country. And when I'm in Copenhagen, and you know, not only in the centre but also in suburban Copenhagen, it's not worth it. Copenhagen is not a city that I want to live in. It's not a great city to live in general. I mean, Esbjerg isn't either, but at least I don't have to pay for it. So, like, really. Of course, you know, I buy a house, it doesn't really cost more when I sell it than when I buy it. Can we get through there again? That would be so fantastic. In Copenhagen, you might buy a house. And in turn, it rises exponentially in value. You know, you get millions for it when you sell it. But it's really not worth it if you want to live permanently in Copenhagen. Like, yes, sure, buy your house in Copenhagen and then sell it after 5 years for 500% markup. Maybe not 500%, but you get the idea. No, actually, houses in Copenhagen is so weird. It seems like even the bad parts of Copenhagen still is like way above all other places in the country, maybe except Aarhus and parts of Odense. What do you think that house costs? Maybe 1.5. No, maybe not 1.5. Look at the garden, that's... By the way, if we can take a moment to stop here, appreciate the garden to the right. Can we get an F in the chat for number 4 and number 6? Their gardens are disgusting. It isn't even a garden, it's a car park. Yeah, we have car parks all over the city. We also need some in the only part that's supposed to be a garden. Like, what in the world? That's individualism right there. Terrible. Well, maybe not actually individualism, but, you know. That house too, I mean, it isn't great from this. Is that even a house? Yeah, but it isn't. Look at how disgusting it looks. Grey. I will never get why Danish people love grey so much. When I go to Sweden, and when I go to Finland, and when I go to Germany, and when I go to the Netherlands, and when I go to all other countries, it's always, you know, bright colours and like yellow or green or red or anything. In Denmark, grey all the bloody time. Well, maybe this is not the most beautiful place to walk. But why? Because it's grey. It's absolutely disgusting. I don't get it. And then we go out here. And look at this. There might be a bunch of traffic noise and it's horrible. But look at all the greenery there. The apartments there are not disturbed. I am so glad I don't live in those apartments. Noise directly from the road up there. Not there. These houses are built good. And they're colourful as well. This is capitalistic post-communism. Garbage houses. That being said, you can afford to live there if you want to. You can't in Copenhagen. That's the point. We don't have a housing crisis in Denmark. You can live wherever you want, except for Copenhagen and big parts of Aarhus. If you want to live in the fields, live in the fields. That will be 700,000 kroner. If you want to live in one of the East Atlantic fjord cities, which are beautiful, by the way, I think they're some of the best cities in the country. You can actually afford to live there for 2 million. If you want to live in Copenhagen, first of all, if you want to live in the centre, don't. It will cost 10 million or something like that. To the north, don't. That is even more expensive. That's like 30. To the west is your only option. And then just go out. Last I checked, actually there are two possibilities. Last I checked for houses over 170 square meters for under 3.5 million. I got to a house in an industrial part of Kastrup, south of Copenhagen, directly to the airport. And I got another, which was much further west, out in Fabriksparken in Glostrup, or something like that, which is literally the Copenhagen equivalent of the stereotypical American strip mall or whatever. It's disgusting out there. You can get a house half the price in what is generally considered the most beautiful valley in Denmark. That's Skystaden in Vejle. And a good house as well. That's the takeaway here. Don't move to Copenhagen. Don't move to Aarhus. It's great other places.